علی
اس میں کدھر ہے میرا تمہیں جوشن کبیر پہ لگایا ہوا مانی تم لائیو بر محمد والے محمد بلند تر صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم حدیث کے ساتھ عن جابر بن عبداللہ الانصاری فاطمۃ الزہرا علیہ السلام بنت رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ قال سمعت فاطمۃ انها قالت دخل علی برسول اللہ فی بعد الايام فقال السلام علیک یا فاطمۃ فقلت علیک السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ذوقا فقلت له ولدك في الله يا فتاه من الذوق فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به بصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كان البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله
اللهم صل على محمد
وكانت إلا ساعة وزبر بے ولد الحسن قد اقبل وقال السلام علیکم یا امہ فقلت علیک السلام یا قرۃ عینی وثمرۃ فؤادی فقال یا امہ وإني شم عندك رائحة طیبة كان رائحة جدی رسول اللہ فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء فقال السلام علیک یا جدہ یا رسول اللہ تعالی علی ان اخلاق ما تحت الكساء فقال علیک السلام یا ولدی و یا صاحب حوضی قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء وما كانت الا ساعة وزبي ولد الحسین قد اقبل وقال السلام علیک یا امہ قلت علیک السلام یا ولدی و یا قرۃ عینی وثمرۃ فؤادی فقال لي یا امہ إني شم عندك رائحة طیبة كان رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وقعت تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء فقال السلام عليك يا جدة والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله فأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك بالحسن يا علي بن أبي طالب قال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني شم لك رائحة طيبة كان رائحة أخي وابن أمير رسول الله فقلت نعم حوا ما ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله تأذن لأن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لبهي قد أذنت لك فدخل من تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء فقلت السلام عليك يا فتاه يا رسول الله فتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما كملنا من تحت الكساء أخذ برسول الله بدر في الكساء وعم بيده من السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وعامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم أنا هرب لمن حاربهم وأسلم لمن سالمهم وأدعوه لمن عادهم ومحب لمن عافهم إنه مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأصرف عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
قال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي وسكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرض مهدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمس مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسير إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء وقال لمن جبرائيل يا رب وهم تحت الكساء وقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة مادن الرسالة هم فاطمة بعدوها وقالوها وبنوها
اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد وقال جبرائيل يا رب تعزني أحبط من الأرض ليكون معهم ثالثا فقال اللهم قد أذنت لك فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويقصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك بعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مهدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسير إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله وقال رسول الله عليه السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء وقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا فقال علي النبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما للدوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي مصطفاني برسالتي نجي ما ذكر خبرنا هذا فيما يحلمنا لأهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيئتنا محبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وصعب شيئتين ورب الكعبة وقال النبي الثانية يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبي مصطفاني برسالته نجي ما ذكرنا خبرنا هذا في محفل محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيئتنا محبين وفيه محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا محموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسويدنا كذلك شيئتنا فازوا وسويدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
سجدے میں مرتضی پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے سجدے میں مرتضی پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے دین خدا کا لوگوں کعبہ گرا دیا ہے سجدے میں مرتضی پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے شمشیر حسبنا کی حیدر پہ جو چلی ہے شمشیر حسبنا کی حیدر پہ جو چلی ہے ڈوبی ہوئی لہو میں دستار مرتضی ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے میت علی پہ اتنا روئی اکیلی زینب میت علی پہ اتنا روئی اکیلی زینب ماں فاطمہ کا شاید پھر یاد آ گیا ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے کعبہ نہ ہوتا کعبہ اسلام بھی نہ ہوتا کعبہ نہ ہوتا کعبہ اسلام بھی نہ ہوتا ہے دین تیری عزت حیدر بچا گیا ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے بابا کو دیکھا زخمی سر پیٹ روئی زینب بابا کو دیکھا زخمی سر پیٹ روئی زینب حیدر کو رونے بقیہ چھوڑائی فاطمہ ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے میت حسن پہ زینب تیرے ستم چلیں گے میت حسن پہ زینب تیرے ستم چلیں گے تم تو کفن بنانا مولا نے رو کہا ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے دین خدا کا لوگوں کعبہ گرا دیا ہے سجدے میں مرتضیٰ پہ ایسا ستم کیا ہے
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل
بارہ ذکر صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد
مرتے کی تربت پیش کر رہا ہوں شہادت سورہ فاتحہ اے دوستو حیدر کی شہادت کا بیان ہے ماتم کی ہے یہ فصل کے ماہ رمضان ہے، محرم کہیں ہے کہیں محشر کا سماں ہے، ہلتے ہیں فلک عرش پہ بھی شور و فغاں ہے، جبریل بھی بیتاب ہے استاد کے غم میں، ارے احمد بھی بکا کرتے ہیں داماد کے غم میں، احمد بھی بکا کرتے ہیں داماد کے غم میں، آخر شاہ مرداں کی شہادت کی شب آئی، سادات پہ آفت کی مصیبت کی شب آئی، 21ویں تاریخ وہ رحلت کی شب آئی، خاتون قیامت پہ قیامت کی شب آئی، رخصت کیا ایک ایک کو زرغام خدا نے، نائب کیا شبر کو شرے عقدہ کشا نے، نائب کیا شبر کو شرے عقدہ کشا نے، فرمایا کہ نانا کی امانت سے خبردار، اسلام سے قرآن سے شریعت سے خبردار، گل احمد مختار کی دولت سے خبردار، مخدومہ کونین کی عطرت سے خبردار، زینب کسی صدمے سے کبھی رونے نہ پائی، پیارے میرے شبیر کو غم ہونے نہ پائے، پیارے میرے شبیر کو غم ہونے نہ پائے، اے لال یہ اجڑی ہوئی سرکار سنبھالو، لو اے میرے جانی میرے معصوموں کو پالو، بیٹا میری زینب کو کلیجے سے لگا لو، لو سب یہ بزرگوں کے تبرک ہے اٹھا لو، جو کچھ تھا میرے پاس وہ تم کو ہی دیا ہے، بس ایک عالم احمد مختار رہا ہے، بس ایک عالم احمد مختار رہا ہے، شبر نے کہا وہ بھی عطا کیجیے بابا، فرمایا کہ یہ آپ کا حصہ نہیں بیٹا، مالک ہے حسین اس کے وہ دیں گے تو ملے گا، عباس کو بلواؤ یہ منصب ہے اسی کا، میں سامنے اپنے اسے عہدہ یہ دلا دوں، شبیر کے لشکر کا علمدار بنا دوں، شبیر کے لشکر کا علمدار بنا دوں، پھر حضرت شبیر کو پاس اپنے بلایا عباس بھی آئے علم سبز بھی آیا پہلے تو انہیں بھائی کے قدموں پہ جھکایا پھر فاطمہ کے لال کو رو کر یہ سنایا پیارے کو میرے جعفر تیار بنا دو تم ان کو نشان دے کے علمدار بنا دو تم ان کو نشان دے کے علمدار بنا دو یہ سن کے نشان شاہ شہیدان نے اٹھایا عباس وفادار کو رو کر یہ سنایا لو بھائی تمہیں ہم نے علمدار بنایا لے کر وہ علم جب سرے تسلیم جھکایا کاندھے پہ نشان دیکھ کے غش کر گئے ہیں میرے پیارے کہا اور مر گئے ہیں میرے پیارے کہا اور مر گئے ہیں اے دوست تو حیدر کی شہادت کا بیان ہے
اور محمد و آل محمد صلوات اور دیگر صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
First off, let's start with the Surah Fatiha for all the marhumeen of this family, as well as our marhumeen in our community, especially those marhum that maybe don't have anyone left to recite Surah Fatiha. Fatiha. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبو القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لعن الله الأعداء أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك صلوات على محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
First and foremost, we send our condolences to the Imam of our time, to Rasulullah, to the rest of the Masumeen, on the martyrdom anniversary of one of the greatest individuals who has ever lived on this planet. One of the greatest individuals to ever fight for the sake of Islam, the greatest human being after the Prophet ﷺ. Ayatollah Jafar Subhani, in his book, Furuq-e-Walaya, he describes Ameer al-Momineen's life in a very strange way. One that I've really never seen his life be described. He says that he was born in the Kaaba, born in a house of worship, and he was made shaheed in Masjid al-Kufa, in a house of worship. So his life, in essence, is a journey from one place of worship to the next. If you were to summarize the life of Amir al-Momineen, it's just that. It is a testament to Tawheed. It is him bearing witness to the oneness of Allah in a way that nobody ever has. Who has been born in the Kaaba? Who has been made shaheed in Masjid al-Kufa? No one. And the beauty of his life, the beauty of his willingness to sacrifice for Tawheed, his willingness to advocate for the oneness of Allah despite the circumstance, deserves so much study that one speech in one majlis is absolutely nothing. Is absolutely nothing to do justice to that type of life that he lived. I think that one of the best ways to understand, at least maybe partially, the type of life that he lived, the type of mission that he wanted us to have, the type of love that he had for his Lord, look at some of the treasures that he left behind for us. The most amazing treasure, I think for us, the most impactful treasure, the most applicable treasure to our lives, I think is Dua Kumail. Many of us, we read this every Thursday. Many of us have grown, we've spent 40, 50, 60 years reading this dua. We are very familiar with the words, maybe. But some of us perhaps have forgotten the importance of it. And I'm not here as an expert in that importance. I'm not here to tell you that I know everything in this dua, but there are a couple of things I think that stand out to me about this dua that are so beautiful that really demand our reflection as Shia Muslims, as people that are entrusted with this dua to safeguard this prayer. Because it's really amazing. Other Muslims may not have this dua. Some of our Sunni brothers and sisters, yes, they do recite this dua. But it is such an intrinsically Shia thing. It is so bound to our tradition and our legacy that we need to understand this better than anybody else. I don't understand personally how someone can go their entire lives without having recited this dua one time. How you can be a Muslim, love Allah, and not call up to him in the way that Amir al-Momineen instructed us to in this dua. If we look at the story behind the dua, it is one that is unparalleled too. Amir al-Momineen was in a mosque in Basra. He was giving a lecture, and among the crowd, there were several companions. Kumail ibn Ziyad, many of you may have heard of, the dua is also named after him, was sitting in this crowd. Amir al-Momineen in passing says that, those of you who wish to seek forgiveness on this night, to seek reward on this night of 15th of Sha'ban, should read the dua ayat Qidr. And Amir al-Momineen goes on, finishes his lecture, the crowd disperses. And Kumail is sitting there for a moment, and he thinks that this dua that Amir al-Momineen mentioned, nobody, sought after this, nobody asked questions about this. So he finds the house that Ali ibn Abi Talib is staying at in Basra. He knocks on the door and he says, Mawla, I want to learn this dua that you told us to read. This dua of Qidr, like you told us, there's so much reward associated with it. There's so much greatness for our own understanding of Allah. There's so much benefit for us associated with this. I want to learn. Can you teach me? And Imam Ali alayhi salam sits down with Kumail and he teaches him this dua. So much so that the dua's name itself shifts, right? We don't call it dua Qidr, right? We call it dua Kumail. Because of the curiosity of this companion, because of the willingness to learn of this companion. In that, there's a lesson for us all. How many times did Amir al-Mu'mineen say, ask me before I'm gone? Kumail is one of the few that took advantage of that opportunity. That said, look at this resource that I've been given, this connection to Allah that I have been given. I would be remiss if I took this for granted. So Kumail is one of the few that goes and pursues knowledge from Amir al-Mu'mineen. Number one, that's our lesson. Is that we have a framework for how to pursue knowledge, how to use the Ahlul Bayt, leverage our connection with the Ahlul Bayt to get closer to Allah. Additionally, the reward for that curiosity was now we know this dua by his name, by a companion's name. How amazing is that? And what a gift that is from Ali ibn Abi Talib himself to say that, oh Kumail, you ask this one question, now for generations, all my Shia, when they read this dua, they will think of you. Salawat Allah. The other beautiful lesson that I think is really amazing is that Imam Ali doesn't need this dua. That's the most amazing thing about it, is that he had this in his back pocket and he didn't need it. This dua talks about, oh Allah, I have sinned. Oh Allah, I have done dhulm against myself. Oh Allah, I have hurt my own connection with you by the actions that I've committed. Why would Imam Ali need to say anything like that? In what situation would Amir al-Mu'mineen be confessing to the sins that he's committed, saying that, oh Allah, na'udhu billah, my sins are preventing my dua from entering the arsh of Allah? Never. It's for us. He provided this treasure for us so that those who wish to seek that closeness to Allah, those who wish to see how Amir al-Mu'mineen would ask for forgiveness, how he connected himself to his Creator, you can look no further than this prayer, and you can do your best to emulate Imam Ali alayhi salam. Salawat So in doing this, Imam Ali gives us a gift is honestly the understatement of a lifetime. I think. It is, if you want to see the Islamic concept of Tawheed, the Islamic concept of the divine forgiveness of Allah, you can look toward this dua and see how exactly one should seek forgiveness. And there's a few points. Again, this is a very, very long discussion. One speech, one discussion is not going to be enough to encapsulate everything, but I think there's 4 points really that if we want to take home with this dua, maybe in this short period of time, that we can go and sort of parse out a little bit better. But I'm giving you all homework assignment. If you have not read the translation of this dua, please go back home and just read a little bit of it. Maybe not the whole thing. It's a long dua, I understand, but just maybe 1 or 2 lines and understand the language that's being used, because it's truly unlike any other. So the beauty of the beginning of the dua, I think, deserves its own discussion, right? You have the start of the dua in which you are asking Allah for all the attributes, for the sake of all the attributes. Oh Allah, for the sake of your mercy that encompasses all things, for the sake of your strength that encompasses all things. Oh Allah, for the sake of your love which encompasses all things. That's one way to get somebody's attention, obviously. But the creator of the world, you're asking him, you're saying, oh Allah, I am trying to get to know you. It's not just that I'm coming to ask forgiveness for you. I want to get to know you for your rahmah. I want to get to know you for your strength. Oh Allah, I want to get to know you for your divine ability to create things. And each and every one of those characteristics is laid out. And we make the concession that, oh Allah, we are nothing in front of you. What you have is beyond any of our comprehension. What you have encompasses all things. We cannot hope to understand it. But we can sit here and we can appreciate it with the time that we've been given on this earth. And that is really the beauty of entrusting ourselves entirely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's this type of devotion to Tawheed that most people cannot even comprehend. We look at the type of connection that Ameer Momineen had with his creator. We can't get to that point. We all know the story when Ameer Momineen was injured in one of the battles. He had an arrow in his leg. When was the best time to pull the arrow out? When he was so taken by the connection with his creator, when he was so involved in that speaking with his Lord, when he was so entranced by the beauty of all these attributes of Allah, that was the time when you could remove the arrow and there would be no physical pain that was felt by him. Because all that stuff is secondary at that point in time when you are entrusting everything you have to your creator. So that's the start of this dua. The other part that I think bears that, it warrants our discussion is the way in which we ask forgiveness. It's not just a general, oh Allah, forgive me for everything that I've done. We go point by point. We say, oh Allah, there are some sins that I have committed that are going to bring misfortune to me. Forgive me for those. Oh Allah, there are some sins that are blocking my dua from reaching your arsh. Forgive me of those so that our connection can be restored. Oh Allah, there are some of those sins that are going to decrease the type of risk that I have in this world, that are going to bring on poverty and misfortune. Oh Allah, forgive me for those as well. And you can go, there's a beautiful, a lot of commentary that we have of which sins fall into which categories. For instance, the ones that are associated, from my understanding, of blocking your dua, it's like being rude to your parents or being hopeless in Allah. Those types of sins block our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Ali is telling us, don't just ask forgiveness. Look at your record. Look at your paperwork, so to speak. Go point by point. Look at all the things that you've done wrong. Remember and be repentant for each one of those things. Go back to your Lord. Ask him for forgiveness specifically because you know that there is a punishment in this lifetime possibly for some of these sins. That each of these sins brings on a certain type of bala, right? Some type of misfortune on us, and it is our responsibility to go take ownership of these things and seek forgiveness in the right way. It is not a generic, I'm sorry for everything, please forgive me. It is, my God, I have put our connection in danger. I have hurt myself before anybody else, and I've hurt you by doing the actions that I've done. Forgive me for these things. And we move point by point, discussion by discussion. And Ameer Momineen is giving us a blueprint for how to have our sins forgiven. What a gift that is. What a treasure that is for us to have. The other beautiful thing from my understanding is that, certain points there's a parallel that's drawn between the dua and the book of Allah. What do we call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dua? When we say, Ya Nur Ya Qudus, right? The light, this divine light. In the Quran, Surah Nur, Allah says, Allah nur samawati wal ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and earth. We are saying, oh Allah, you introduced yourself like this. I am addressing you as you've instructed me based on your introductions. That you are the light of the heavens and earth. How can I be sitting in darkness if I am coming towards the light? Salawat Allah.
Nara Takbir, Nara Risalat, Nara Haydari, Wal Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
The other point that goes along with this this parallel in the Quran is that we say Allahumma inni ataqarrabu ilayka bi dhikrik. I seek closeness to you by your remembrance. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Fadhkurni adhkurkum. If you remember me, I will remember you. So we are saying that I seek closeness by remembering you, O Allah, remember me back. That I have not forgotten you. That these deeds that I have done, yes, they've stacked up. Yes, I'm not perfect, but oh Allah, throughout all of it, I have not forgotten who you are. I have not forgotten your mercy, and I have not forgotten that remembering you means that you are close by. So this is the type of, it's really poetic, honestly. It's the type of relationship that Ameer Momineen is instructing his Shia to have. And really, I pity the people that don't have this type of document. Because truly, what are they missing out on? Imam Ali alayhi salam was so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After the Prophet, he was the closest. And if he is telling us exactly the steps that we need to take, the blueprint we need to follow in order to try and emulate that type of connection, to follow in his footsteps as best as we possibly can as imperfect human beings, that is something we should all jump at the opportunity to do so, right? And that the most beautiful part, again, this is something that is way beyond one discussion. It's the climax of the dua. Right, we see that at that point, and many of us have heard this multiple times, and I know you are all experts in this dua, and you don't need me to rehash certain things, but we say that, oh Allah, if you take me to the punishment with your enemies, oh Allah, if you remove me from the people that you love and you decide to put me in the hellfire, if you separate me from those who you love and put me with those who have transgressed against you, oh Allah, suppose for a minute that I am able to withstand your punishment. Suppose for a moment that the fire is not enough to overwhelm me, enough to destroy my spirit. Oh Allah, I will still call out to you. Oh Allah, I will not stop calling out to you. To the point where the other souls will say, my God, how can you put someone like this who is continuously calling out to you? How can you put someone like this in the hellfire? How is it possible, based on your justice, your rahmah, that you can put someone like this who is continuously calling out to you, who loves you so much despite the justice that you are handing out? How can you put someone like this in the hellfire? That's the climax of this dua, because we see that there are levels to obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe the first level is avoiding the punishment, right? We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to have any sort of consequences for our actions, so we repent and we follow Allah. The second level, maybe we want heaven, right? We want some kind of treat for what we've done. We want positive feedback, positive reinforcement. But that third level is where Ameer Momineen is. It doesn't matter about the reward or the punishment. Those things are there. Yes, we fear the punishment, we want the reward. But our primary driver, the primary reason why we worship Allah is because He deserves worship alone. There's no justification beyond that, no justification more profound than that. Is that He deserves worship. He deserves our loyalty. He deserves our willingness to act in His way. That is why we are worshiping. That doesn't change. Whether you're in heaven, you're in hell. That does not change. You will still call out to Allah. And those true believers that we aspire to be like, they're exactly like that. Regardless of the punishment, regardless of your want for some kind of reward, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should not change, because He is the Creator. Salawat So we see that this dua, when we say that it's about forgiveness and atonement, I think that that's a little bit reductive. Right? It doesn't do its due diligence. It doesn't really give it the reputation that it deserves. It's not just about forgiveness. It's about this eternal hope in Allah. This eternal love for Allah that's going to span not only this life, but your time in the akhirah as well. If one of us lands in the hellfire, we need to adopt this type of mentality. It's easier said than done, I understand that. But This is the instruction that we are being given. Because do you really think that somebody whose rahmah is beyond anything that we can comprehend, whose mercy, whose love for us is beyond anything that we can comprehend, do you think he will be able to tolerate seeing you in the hellfire when you're calling out to him? I don't think so. I truly don't think so. Because our Creator loves us so much. And Ameer Momineen is telling us, keep hope in Allah. Regardless of where your life takes you, at whatever trial or tribulation is thrown your way, keep hope in Allah before anything else. That His rahmah should never be reduced to something that you can comprehend. He is always there for you, from this life into the next. And we see that this love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this unparalleled, advocacy for Tawheed, this advocacy for Allah being the most merciful, it spanned Imam Ali's life from start to finish. And I think sometimes when we talk about the martyrdom of Ameer al-Mu'mineen, we reduce it to like the last 3 days, right? Zarbat happened, and then a few days went by, and then he became shaheed. But we see that in the last 2 weeks of his life, it's some of the most profound actions of his life. Those last 2 weeks were preparation to go meet his Lord, more than anything else. He gives a khutbah in the second week of Ramadan. He says that, "O people, soon this beard," he points to his beard, "will be drenched in blood. This year when you go on Hajj to Mecca, you will go without a leader. I will not be with you." The time goes on, and Ameer al-Mu'mineen keeps saying things like this. He keeps bringing up this topic of, "I'm not going to be here soon. The Prophet told me something was going to happen, that I'm going to be martyred in Ramadan, and I will not be here next year." And he continuously brings this up to his companions. The way he spent his time in the last few days was also truly, truly remarkable. He spends the last 4 days that he has, the last 4 fasts that he does, he goes to each of his children's house and he does iftar, he stays overnight, does suhoor with them. He goes to Imam Hassan's house first. Then he goes to Imam Husaini's house. Then he goes to Bibi Zainab's house. Then he goes to Bibi Kulthum's house. And that's his last day before the Zarbat happens. Each time he breaks his fast with 3 bites of food. People ask him, "Why are you not eating anything?" He says, "No, the divine justice is coming. My divine meeting is coming. I need to be ready. I cannot be full. I cannot be indulging on food." 3 bites is what he would eat for food. That time would come. And I think the most beautiful way to describe this is the way that Imam Hassan, the first khutbah Imam Hassan gives after Ameer al-Mu'mineen is shaheed. Imam Hassan says that a man passed away tonight who was unlike anyone known by former generations, nor will be known by anybody in future generations. When he fought, he was accompanied by Jibreel on his right and Mikael on his left. By Allah, the night with which he passed away is the same significance as the demise of Musa or Isa and the revelation of the Quran. And how beautiful were these last nights, that people took note of this preparation that he was having. Ameer al-Mu'mineen looked restless, as if he was going to go meet somebody very important. He could not rest properly. He spent a lot of his time in prayer. And then that day comes. And when he finishes the time for suhoor, he goes and he makes his intention to go and lead the Fajr namaz. As he's leaving his house, his daughter stops him. Kulthum stops him and says, "Oh, my father, can't you send somebody else in your place to go and lead the prayer today?" Ameer al-Mu'mineen says, "No, today is my day. Today is the day that I'm proud of. Today is my day to seek Shahadat." He goes out, he begins walking toward the masjid. Some say that the geese stopped him. People begin to shoo the geese away. And Ameer al-Mu'mineen says, "No, this is their way of mourning. They know that I'm not going to be here tomorrow as well." Imam Ali makes his way to the masjid. He begins waking up the people that are sleeping there. He wakes them up. He says, "The time is coming for Fajr prayer. The time is coming. Go and do wudu." Ameer al-Mu'mineen does his adhan. He begins to lead the prayer. And as he goes into sujood, Ibn Muljim comes from behind and attacks him and hits him in the head. As cry is heard in Masjid al-Kufa, he said, "Tahaddamat wallah, arkan al-huda," by God, the pillars of guidance have collapsed. Blood begins to gush from the wound of Ameer al-Mu'mineen. It begins to wet his beard. Ameer al-Mu'mineen puts his hand on his head. He says, "Fustu Rabbil Kaaba, by Allah, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I have been successful." Ameer al-Mu'mineen is carried on a carpet to his house. He is carried by his children. And I ask you, Allah, you were carried by your children to the house. You were carried by the children. You were given such respect in these last few moments. They gave you milk. They fed you food. They tried to keep you comfortable in these last few moments. When you saw Ibn Muljim's hands were bound, you demanded that he be freed. But oh Mawla, come to Karbala. There's a man who's in shackles and chains. There's a man who is being walked from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham under the heat. There's one rope that's being used to bind the hands of the daughters of Ali Muhammad. Bibi Sakina is bound onto the camel and held there for the entirety of their travel. Mawla, your children were able to bury you. Your children were able to execute your will. Mawla, what of the children of Hussein? What of Ali Akbar? If you come to Karbala, what of Ali Asghar? How did they treat the children of Hussein? Mawla, you were buried in Najaf. You were buried next to our prophets. You were buried next to Hazrat Adam and Hazrat Nuh. Mawla, Hussein's body stayed on the khak of Karbala for days. Mawla, you were struck once in the head. And yes, that strike, it was poisonous. The sword was dipped in poison, Mawla. And the skull that you had, it split in half. And there was blood all over. And it was a painful situation to be in. But Mawla, look at Hussein on the day of Karbala. They say that when Hussein landed onto the ground of Karbala, he didn't come to rest on the earth. He came to rest on the heads of the arrows. They counted how many wounds were on Hussein's body. He was wounded from head to toe. Mawla, somebody came and they cut your son's hand, they cut his finger so that they could take his ring. Mawla, they trampled your son's body with horses. Mawla, they brought doctors to you. Your friends and your companions were there with you. Mawla, there were horses to run over the body of Hussein. In our Ziyarat al-Nahya, which is narrated by our 12th Imam, he says, peace be upon the blood-stained chest of Hussein. Peace be upon those parched lips. Peace be upon those dismembered limbs. Peace be upon that who the pact was broken, who was bathed in the blood of his own wounds. Peace be upon the one who tasted the spears raining over his body. Peace be upon the one whose aorta was severed. Peace be upon that defender who had no helper. Peace be upon the gray hair that was dyed with blood. And peace be upon that cheek which struck the dust.
Ali Mawla,
Haidar Mawla,
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 Ali Mawla,
Haidar Mawla.
कम है अब रोए जिस कदर ज़ैना हो गई आह बेदर ज़ैना हो गई आह बेदर ज़ैना कम है अब रोए जिस कदर ज़ैना हो गई आह बेदर ज़ैना हो गई आह बेदर ज़ैना आज है पर गम पे है लिहाज़ा 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 आपके गम में नौकर रहना हो गई बेदर रहना हो गई बेदर रहना मिल रहा है मदार रोती है मिल रहा है मदार रोती है मिल रहा है मदार रोती رونا ہے عمر بھر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا دیکھنا ایک دل دکھائے گی 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 ہم تجھ کو یہی سحر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ابتدا ہے ابھی تو کوفے میں 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 مجھ کو ہونا ہے در بدر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا سیدہ گئی ہے جنت سے 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 سارا ماتم پیدا ہے گھر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ہو گئی یاد پدر کہنا ہم ہیں اب روئے جس قدر زینا حسین 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 مولا حیدر مولا علی 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 مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا علی مولا حیدر مولا حسنین کا سینہ ہے داغ غم حیدر ہے حسنین کا سینہ ہے داغ غم حیدر ہے چادر ہے یتیمی اور زینب مضطر ہے حسنین کا سینہ ہے داغ غم حیدر ہے چادر ہے یتیمی کی اور زینب مضطر ہے اماں کی جدائی سے اب تک ہے جگر چھلنی اماں کی جدائی سے اب تک ہے جگر چھلنی اماں کی جدائی سے اب تک ہے جگر چھلنی اب باپ کا ماتم ہے کلثوم سی دختر ہے حسنین کا سینہ ہے داغ غم حیدر ہے حسنین کا سینہ ہے داغ غم حیدر ہے کربلا الہی میں حسنین کا سینہ ہے باغ غم حیدر ہے کیسی یہ مصیبت ہے احمد کے گھرانے پر کیسی یہ مصیبت ہے احمد کے گھرانے پر کیسی یہ مصیبت ہے احمد کے گھرانے پر ہے خاک بسر احمد چہرہ بھی کھلے سر ہے سینہ ہے باغ غم حیدر ہے حسنین کا سینہ ہے باغ غم حیدر ہے آئی تھی اسی گھر سے تکبیر کی آوازیں آئی تھی اسی گھر سے تکبیر کی آوازیں آئی تھی اسی گھر سے تکبیر کی آوازیں اب ماتم ہے گھر میں مصروف یہی گھر ہے حسنین کا سینہ باغ غم حیدر ہے حسنین کا سینہ علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا علی مولا
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي، السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد، السلام عليكم جميعا عامة من ولد الحسين، سلام الله عليه، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبو الفضل العباس يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وقاسم بن الحسن ومسلم بن عقيل وهاني بن أروى وحبيب بن مظاهر والكل الشهيد الرياحي. السلام عليكم جميعا شهداء كربلاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعيس النفوس، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
اللهم صل على